When people ask me what my hobbies are or what I do, and I talk about ultra running, like running 100-mile races, or even running 10Ks, just running in general, it doesn't matter. There's a lot of people out there that are like, well, I can never be a runner, right? Or running hurts too much or it sucks. I think it's a limiting mindset. If you have two legs, you can run. And even if you are missing a leg, there are people with prosthetics, they run. So it's an excuse. And I'm not saying everyone has to be a runner. Obviously, people like their different things. What I'm getting at is if you don't run because you think you can't run, that's not true. So hopefully you can get over that with this video. But what I want to get at is how to get running to suck less. Like, this is a big part of why I think people don't like running, and I have a couple tips on this that I think are going to be very, very helpful for that. It's stuff I've had to learn through and struggle through. So we got three tips that'll help you not hate running as much, because if you're into it and you want to enjoy it, I think you should. And so let's just jump right into it. So we got to talk about zone heart rate training for a minute, or heart rate running. And this video is not about that. I just want to address it and talk about why it's helpful. I can't go into all the details right now. So I would look up heart rate zone running, or look up my other videos about heart rate zone training. So basically the idea is you have two systems. You got your aerobic and anaerobic, and you got these 5 heart rate zones. And basically whatever your heart rate is in, depending on the zone, that's like what you fall into. So you have aerobic, that's a little bit more endurance with oxygen, anaerobic, which is without oxygen, a little bit more speed interval, like you couldn't do that anaerobic workout and speed as long as you could when you're in your low aerobic heart rate. So you should look up your zones, because this is one of the things that's going to help you not hate running, and actually it makes you a better runner, which I think a lot of people miss, and I missed it. Like, when I started to get into running and being very consistent, I was like pushing 7:30-minute miles every time I would run. And then I started learning about zone training, or really specifically running in zone 1, zone 2. So zone 1, zone 2, depending on where you're at, it's different for everyone. This is easy mileage, and what this does is it builds a base. So I love this analogy. When it comes to getting better at running, you have sand, and the wider you build out the sand, the higher you can stack on, like the higher you can go with stacking on stands. And the comparison is also, as you stack higher, that's more speed and more intensity. And so if you only have a small base, you can only go so much before you stack sand on the top and it just rolls down to the base. It tries to create more of a base. And so like what that is in the running world is getting injured, plateauing, not getting any faster. And it's because you don't have a wide enough base. So the better you are at widening that base, the more intensity and speed you can stack on top, and you're less likely to get injured while doing so. And so one thing that helps you not hate running is not every run has to suck and be miserable and push and just be so fast that you feel like you're going to puke. I love speed work. I absolutely love speed work. But if every single run I had to like try and PR, I would not be interested. So if you have some weird goal of where you're trying to run faster every single day for 5 days, I think that's super valuable, because mentally, if you were like, for every day for 7 days, I'm going to run a 5K, and I'm going to try and do faster every single time. That's amazing. You should try that goal, because mentally you're going to learn a lot. You're also more likely to injure yourself, and you're more likely to be like, man, this sucks. And so when you're a runner and you start learning these things, you start to enjoy it more, because easy runs are easier, and you just get to enjoy it, and it's still productive is the point. It's still productive. You're building a base, you're getting more efficient. And just to give some perspective, I started running zone 2 miles, and based off of my zone 2, I had to run like 15-minute miles. So that meant I would run until my heart rate would spike over zone 2 into zone 3, and then I would walk, and I would run, walk. In today's world, for me, I run a lot of my zone 2 mileage at 8-minute miles, 9-minute miles, 10-minute miles. And so imagine me doing this for another 10 years. I could be in the 7-minute miles where it's zone 2, and that's like an easy recovery day for me. So I'm just excited to see where that goes, and you have to start somewhere. So if you're running 3 days a week, I think you should run 2 of those in zone 2, and you'd have to look up and find your heart rate zones. Number 2, I'm going to be super brief on this point, is strength training. So one of the biggest pains of running is injuries, and feeling like you're making progress towards a race or training for a marathon or whatever it is, and then you get injured and you have to take time off and you lose your fitness, and then you come back, and even when you come back, you're happy to be back, but you're mad because you're slower than you were and not as fit. And so strength training, absolutely no doubt reduce your risk of injuries. And so here's what I want to throw out, especially if you've been running for a while. If you're going to use the time excuse, which I think is a terrible excuse, we can find time if we really want to. If you're going to use that you're already doing too much and maybe you're very productive and highly efficient, that's amazing, good for you. If you want to make running suck less, you should lift weights, and here's what you should do. You should reduce your running volume. So using example, if you typically run 50 miles a week or 30 miles a week, you should drop one of those runs or reduce the mileage so you have time for strength training. So let's say, I'm just breaking it simple, like I'm making it simple for math. Let's say 5 days a week you run 10 miles. I would rather you remove one of those runs or you cut it in half, so then you have that time to go into the gym. And I've made a lot of videos on strength training and what I do. You could also look up or Google different things. It's obvious that this reduces your risk of injury, and guess what? It also helps you become a better runner. You're stronger. You can be faster, especially if you do it right. So there's a lot to strength training. I'm just saying you have the time if you're already in athletics, and you just might have to pull back on your running. But if you're trying to get faster or run races as fast as you can, it's worth it long term. And anyway, strength training, second thing that makes running suck less, because you're less likely to get injured. Now, let's talk about the third one, which is in a similar vein, but a little bit different. I'm a certified yoga teacher, and if you want running to suck less, you should absolutely be stretching. It's not that every time you are in pain you get injured, but I'll tell you what, at least for me, it's not fun to get done with a run and hurt terribly for days, or even that afternoon, and I'll tell you why. Because maybe I'm not injured, but I have this knee pain that starts to mentally freak me out. Like if I run and I have a great run, but at the end my knee hurts, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna cool down, feel better throughout the day. And then if I wake up the next day and I feel the same pain, I start to freak out because I'm worried about injuries. And so there's been a lot of times where that happens. Mentally, it starts to bother me. Emotionally, I'm wondering, am I gonna have to take time off? It's just distracting. And then I stretch and that pain goes away. And so if you're consistent with stretching, one, you reduce that happening. But two, when those pains come up, oftentimes you stretch and they go away, so then you're not bogged down for 2 or 3 days mentally wondering if you're injured and you need to take time off. So stretching all day, every day. I know there's a lot of runners out there that say stretching doesn't work for them. I mean, it's a personal journey. You have to figure it out for yourself. I don't think there's anything wrong with stretching. Here's what you do to make it super simple and easy. I have heard of if you stretch beforehand, it can be bad for your running, so you can warm up. But what I do is after my run, before I go inside, I stretch for about 5 to 7 minutes. It goes a super long way, and we could go through all the exercises, but it's just the simple stuff like quad stretches and hamstring and calf stretches. And when you do it right after the run, you're warm, opposed to if you cool down and then you go to work and then you have to find some more time in the afternoon when you've moved on with your life. I just like to build in stretching into my run. So let's say I have an hour to go for a run, might run for 50 minutes, stretch for 10. So again, similar to weightlifting, I would rather someone reduce their volume of running and stretch. And it's not that much. It might be even half a mile. If you run 10-minute miles and you shave off half a mile to stretch, you have 5 minutes to stretch, get that done, and then move on with your day. I think that goes a long way because you're already warm, you're already in the mindset of stretching, and you're just going to feel better. I think it's I guess there's a lot of different ways to do it, but I think it's pretty cool if you run 5 days a week, you stretch for 10 minutes every single time. That's 50 minutes of stretching. And sure, you could do a 50-minute session of yoga. I do that stuff all the time. It's just, it adds up if you do it after every single run, especially before you sit down in a car to drive or you're sitting at an office all day. I know I feel dramatically better when I stretch after every single run. And the days I don't, I'm disappointed because it's man, I could feel better and I'm less likely to get too tight, which can obviously, I think, in my opinion, lead to injury. If your knee hurts and your quad is tight, super tight, well, no shit, your knee hurts. Your quad muscle is pulling on your knee. And that's just one example. There could be a lot of things out there like calves making your shin hurt or your ankle hurt or your hamstring making you have back pain. The body's so connected, and I've learned this in my yoga certification. So if you want to make running suck less, you should actually stretch a little bit more. So hopefully you get something out of this video. These are things that I think we hear about and know. I'm someone who's gone through them all and realized how important these are, so they're non-negotiables now. And if I'm being honest with myself, a lot of times I take away stretching first but then I get back on it. Like I don't go months without stretching. I just might get bogged down in travel or something like that. So I go running's most important, strength training, then stretching. But you might find a different hierarchy for you. I'm not gonna use the I don't have enough time excuse, because we all have, same 24 hours. So some people are busier than others, but ultimately I think it's worth it. If you clicked on this video and you want running to suck less, this is some things that have helped me make running suck less. So if you like this kind of content when it comes to running, that's what this channel is about. Consider subscribing, and if not, I still hope you get something out of this, because running's so important to me. It's quite literally saved my life. I hope I can say something that makes running more meaningful and impactful for you. So with that being said, I hope I get to see you in another video sometime soon. Peace.